When you figured it out, that was your niche, you stuck with
No,
it.
then you get mad that that's your niche. Then you're like, I don't want to be the freaky neighbor next door. That's a terrible thing to be typecast as. Hello, that paid for my
Mm-hmm.
health insurance for years. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you're lucky enough to be typecast, like thank God and shut up and move on. I remember I auditioned for Money Train, which ended up being a Jennifer Lopez vehicle. And the note that my agent got back was no one would believe that two guys wanted her.
Oh, that's terrible. That's the
It's
note
a
that he got
terrible
back.
note.
Yeah, that's I
I'm sure
guess it
you
was
have them. I'm sure you
uh,
have scary like notes from people. I'd never been to acting class, so I audited an acting class once. And then the teacher afterwards told me, have you ever thought of going into sales?
hmm.
And I was
Oh,
like,
that's terrible. It's like, no, this I'm an actor.
yeah,
Hello. Yeah.
I thought this was a class where you thought, what? But
Uh-huh.
everybody gets those. I mean, I think it's the acting equivalent of organic chemistry, right? It's like you take that as a doctor, as a pre-med student, it weeds out a lot of people.
I think if I
It,
was in casting or if I was a producer, I would be so kind. I mean, I would do what I needed to do, but I would, in terms of comments, because I know it would stick, you know? So was Sid Levin your agent?
yes, yeah, Sid
Hmm.
Levine, yeah, you're like old
Um,
school. Um,
hmm.
Always reminded me of Dennis Franz. He that was also so in the year I was like, I need to find an agent, and that was I'm 100 years old, so that was in the days of Backstage West newspaper, and you look, and then I got a book of from Samuel French of
Right, right. Me
all the
too.
agents.
And always said like he was a legend and really established and old school, right? It said that in the description. He never
Well,
called me back when I sent him my pictures.
they never call you
Never.
back. Nobody ever calls you back.
Well,
I
someone
went through
called
this book.
you.
Well, here's the thing. I went through the book. I went through I was like, okay, I'm not going to just send it to everybody because also kids today, they don't realize how lucky they are with the digital because we had to print out
Mhm.
expensive. And the only way to get your photos retouched, kids, was somebody I was like with a razor
Mm.
blade scratching on the
You did
actual
it.
print. No,
Yeah, we
I
work
had,
hard. Oh, you had
I knew
somebody.
someone that did it, right? Like I
Mm.
wasn't that skilled. And so maybe 50, 60 agents I read about, one of them actually 25 years hence ended up being the partner ended up being my kid's best friend's dad. And I was like, I
Mm.
wanted to be with your agency so bad.
Can you go back into business, please, and
Right,
take
right.
me on?
But what was so I went through the whole list, chose people that I thought that said they were interested in up and coming and blah blah blah.
I
And
just sent it to everybody. Didn't
oh,
matter.
oh well, I thought, and then I call,
But
and then
your
I had a
approach is good.
chart because we
Hmm.
didn't have Excel, so I had a paper chart, and I call, I sent it, wrote down the date I sent it, waited 8 days, called. Okay, I'll call back next week, and then my chart was just full of like no, 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 and then I did like a play that was in like a church hall that I found in Backstage with a girl named Nicole Nyblack who
Good for
had
you.
the most amazing headshot I've ever seen to this day. It was like a
Mm.
full body, but she was in jeans and her feet were showing, which I now realize they were probably foot fetishists calling her in. But hey, whatever works. And
Yikes.
she said, "Oh, my agent is Sid Levine. You should send him your thing." So I
There you go.
dutifully sent it along. Wait
Personal
the 8 days,
contact.
call him. He says no. And I
Oh.
say, "But I know Nicole Nyblack and she told me to call." And he says, "Oh, all right, come by."
Oh.
So I go by and he takes me on. And he was one guy at a desk. I knew him for longer than his wife Patricia. I had been with him. I don't have an agent now because
Hmm.
he sadly had a medical series of unfortunate events, and so he's up and down, mostly taking care of his medical stuff. But I was like, I don't want another agent. Like I did. There was a minute where I was working so much. He said to me, I think you need a bigger agent. And I was like,
Mm.
no, I don't want a bigger agent. He was like, no,
Well,
go, grasshopper, go.
that's
And
kind of him. Yeah.
yeah, but I did, and it never worked. I wasn't good at like the schmoozing
You
and like at
you
the
took
office.
you went to another agency.
I did like a
Mm.
couple. three or whatever.
Like
I
huge
got
ones or
some bigger ones.
like Gersh APA, or was it more William Morris? Or you don't have to say, actually,
so
that's fine
Will,
too.
I did
Hmm.
William Morris for voice. I can't, I'm again so old. Who were
Hmm.
my agents? I went
William
to,
Morris, yeah, they have a lot of good voiceover artists, I think. Yeah, William
yeah,
Morris, yeah.
I
Mhm.
honestly cannot remember. I
That's
do
okay.
remember that I was
Did
one
he?
of those actors that got so worked up and desperate that they were like, please stop coming by the office. Like I just was like, it said, can I
Mm,
just come back? And just
that's
then that
nice.
way I don't
Hmm.
need to
You
talk to
got all that
anybody.
work through him anyway,
Yeah.
originally, yeah. Did
Yeah.
he accept you right then the first time you went by? He said, "Okay, let's do this."
When I begged, oh, and when I said Nicole, yes. But then I helped, like in the office, I would answer the phone or I would,
Oh,
so yeah, I was a
mm-hmm,
twofer.
that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. What advice would you give to actors today? Maybe a young women coming out to LA,
Um,
maybe with a theater degree or a psychology degree, and just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. My experience as an actor was I booked a job with a small agent, and then I went to a big management company, and then everything opened up. But the small agent would not have been able to get me into the stuff that I was getting into. So that would be my advice, is to, get a manager and agent, both with a lot of clout, who believes in you. That's what I would say. But that's me. And how you do that, I don't know.
yeah, well, that's the thing, right? It's
Obviously only do ethical things, only submit and just keep trying.
right.
But to me, I mean,
It's
the
also
agents.
depends on what I remember when I first came here. There was I won't say it was a scam. It was sort of a scam. So there were these ads, and they'd be like, "Come do a reading," and then you do the reading, and it was like, "Oh, you can for $8,000, we'll put your headshot in this book." And I was
That's
like,
crazy.
"Girl, if I had $8,000, I wouldn't need to be an actor. Like, I
How
would
do
have
people
eight thousand
sleep at night
dollars,
like that? Yeah, right.
right? Like, I'd be
Hmm.
cruising." Again, this is in
Hmm.
1988 dollars,
Hmm.
but I was like, that doesn't seem right to me. I think nowadays people have so many opportunities. You can do stuff on your iPad. I mean, like with my phone, I actually can record. Like if I have an idea, I'll recruit my husband or my kid, like, and we'll record
Hmm.
something and throw it up. I mean, you can throw anything up, and you don't know what's going to hit in any world. I would say, because I'm an old lady with four children, three of them daughters, I would say,
Not
don't
all
record
little, but.
skanky stuff. Like there's no need um
Mhm.
for all the girls have the boobs and the butt. They'll assume you have them. You don't need to show
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
I would say that's kind of important. um I mean, I started out, you know 2 episodes on A Different World, and Taft Hardly done a movie that I got to work on for like 5 weeks, but with one line. So it was like a film school. So I always say I worked my way down the showbiz ladder, because now
Mhm.
I'll catch as catch can. But I would just say, the more you can be of service to people, also, the better things will go. So Michael Lally, who was a poet back in there was a big poetry scene here for a while. A lot of actors would go to Cafe Largo and read their poetry. And I
Mm.
did that as well for food, literally. Like you could get a meal if you read a poem. And so I would write poems because I was starving.
Mm.
Um, but he said something to me,
It's a
which
beautiful
was,
story.
yeah, it was a full
Mm.
meal. He
Mhm.
said something to me that's so true. He was like, when you get to LA or Hollywood or New York, wherever, everyone is a freshman, right? It's your first year, you're all green, and then if you just stick around for 4 to 8 years, then everyone will be seen, like they'll have clues. So my
Never
friends
heard that.
who,
That's a great.
right? So all of
Mhm.
us are junior actors and junior set designers and junior whatever we are,
Mhm.
as if you just stick around, because a lot of people go, I'm out. This is ridiculously hard, and it is. Um, but if you stick to it and you're the kind of person who is reliable, always on time means you get there 15 minutes early. easy to
drug
work with,
free. Yeah.
right? Drug free, and I don't have to
Hmm.
see your boobies and your and your butt. Um,
Hmm.
guess what? Your friends will then be around as well. And it's really important to have friendships, not just all over the industry, but like my biggest advice that I especially give to young women is have a full life. Like
Mm.
have a life, because
Mm.
there's nothing more depressing than saying hello to someone you haven't seen in a while and going, "How are you doing?" And they go, "Oh, I just read for Grey's Anatomy, and I think I'm doing a workshop with blah blah blah." And then and it's like, did I ask you that?
It's not that interesting. Yeah.
I just said, how's
Mm.
life, right? So
Mm.
have a life, and
Mm.
that goes to. I remember doing a pilot. I was hugely pregnant, huge. I don't know how I got the job. I do. It was like, it was my first pregnancy, and there's a point before which you're enormous. And so the audition fell on that day, and it was like a Thursday. And by Monday, I was just
Wild.
so visibly pregnant.
Hmm.
And the best part, I was supposed to be the love interest, like I was the sexy girl, and we had to do the scene with me standing behind the guy, which makes no sense whatsoever. And also, it was before the days of like really hot maternity clothes, so I was just wearing, my wardrobe was just unzipped all the way down in the back, like I couldn't get clothes on. And he was like, "Your baby is kicking me." So it was just a disaster. But there was a girl I worked with on that who confided to me quietly that she too was actually married, but she kept it a secret so she could still work. And I was like,
Mm. Yeah. Is it really worth it? Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Needless to say, that marriage did not
Hmm.
last.
Oh.
So just have a life. And the
Hmm.
thing for women is like your baby making years will coincide with working years for women.
That's a very interesting point. I'm glad you're talking about that. That's interesting.
And guess what?
Yeah. What's important? Yeah.
One of those things is not coming back, right? Like I always joke
Mm.
that I can't wait to be the lady in the Titanic, who comes back at age like 79 and like
Awesome. That's great.
rocking it. That's what I'm
Hmm.
gonna do.
Hmm.
Because I have 4 human beings who are in this world. They're all adults now.
Hmm. Hmm.
I did have one of my big agents actually dropped me when I was pregnant. I was I think it was maybe a week before I delivered, and I was like, if you had waited a week and sent me a fruit basket with the news, I would have been okay with that. Like there was no need to sort of dump me at my most vulnerable.
Right before.
Um,
Yeah. Mm.
and
Mm.
and actually, when I went back to Sid, I was like, "So can I come back?" And he was like, "Of course." And then I said, "I just found out I'm pregnant with twins, by the way." He was like, "All right,
Oh, you have
that's
twins.
fine."
That's neat.
Yeah, my
Mm.
last 2 were twins.
Hmm.
So I actually worked a bunch pregnant. I worked every time I was pregnant, and it
Right.
either it
You
just,
were pregnant 3 times, right?
yeah. So it was either
Yeah.
not, they just didn't point it out, like it just wasn't a thing,
Hmm.
um, or they just hid it really well.
Mm. Mm.
So I would say my best advice is have a life, but do work, especially do work that helps people as a favor.